What's up, guys? As always, don't forget to check out Lights Out podcast, Chris Lytle's podcast. He's got all kinds of cool people on there, MMA legends, guys from back in the day, telling the history of the sport. Um, it's awesome. I'm stuck on it. I listen to it every day. And don't forget to check out my show, High Kick Fight Picks. We're available on Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, Rumble, YouTube, all that. Don't forget to check us out. What's up, guys? We're here to go over UFC 285, Jones versus Gane. UFC Vegas 69 just happened a few days ago. It was a very profitable night. Let's talk about that real quick. I'm not going to go over the whole card. I'm just going to tell you what my bets were. I had a Zach Paga and Clayton Carpenter parlay, two-man parlay. That hit. I had a play on Felipe Lenz at minus 130. That hit. And I had a play on Nazim Saidkov, and that play hit. And I also had a three-man parlay with Saidkov, Lenz, and Zach Paga that hit. And I almost hit a 10-fight parlay, but the main event screwed me on that. Normally my book gives me a chance to cash out the parlay before the main event, and they didn't do it, so they got me on that one. As far as the picks go, I picked all the fights right. I actually switched my pick on this one, if y'all remember, the Jamal Emmers Oskabov fight. I told y'all that if it was up at 45, I would have been picking Emmers, which it turns out it was. Tapology had it listed at bantamweight, so I changed that pick. That was one of the ones that was in my big parlay that I almost hit. And the only fight other than that that I picked wrong was William Knight, who doesn't deserve to be in the UFC at all anymore, and the main event. So all around good card there for me. All right, guys, let's get into this. This is going to be one of the biggest cards ever to me. I mean, I like this. To me, this seems like an even bigger card even than the UFC 284 card. And I know not everybody's going to agree with that, but some of the names on here, I'm super excited to finally see Shavkat Rakhmonov back in here. This fight was supposed to happen, like a month and a half ago. We got Valentina Shepchenko, the women's GOAT. The return of Jon Jones. So this is a really good card. We got Bo Nickel making his UFC debut. I mean, he's a big deal. So this is a pretty good card, man, all the way through and through. And I fully expect to get quite a bit of hate for my picks on this card and for my bets as well, because I'm kind of a little bit let down because you know even a guy like me who is sitting here waiting for these lines to come out and jumping on them as early as I can, it's hard to make any money on this card. It's hard to get any good lines. I'm having to make two-man parlays and stuff with all these people, and got a couple other plays in there, but yeah, it's just disappointing because a lot of these people are immediately dropping at minus 400, minus 500. So it's kind of hard to make money on this card, but let's start down here with the first fight of the night. Cody Garbrandt taking on Trevin Jones. So we got Cody Garbrandt, former champion. He is 31 years old, 5'8", with a 65.5-inch reach. He is 7-5 in the UFC. He's lost 4 of his last 5, with a few of those being by KO. I know he's a former champ. I know he has some power, but it hasn't been looking good lately. I think really he's only won one of his last 6 fights altogether. So he's got a good, powerful right hand. Just seems to me like his chin's been going away. And I know this last fight was down at flyweight, but the first punch that Kai Kara France landed in that fight, he was basically out on his feet and just couldn't get himself back together. The Asuncao fight was impressive finish, but he looked really fast. He looked really good there, but that was a few years ago now. So it's just he's getting a little long in the tooth in his career, and hasn't been putting on good performances. And I know everybody's saying he's going to get back on the wins right here. This is going to be his thing to set it right. So everybody thought he was back after the Asuncao fight, and then it was right back to the same stuff again. So as much as I do want to pick him here, I'm not going to be picking him. So he's taking on Trevin Jones. He is 32 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach. He's 13-9, and he's 1-3 in the UFC. But if you look at his losses, he's only lost to really good competition. Side Cub Kakramanov is really good. Javad Bassarat's really good. He's undefeated. And Ronnie Barcelos is really good too. So I can't fault him for any of those. He knocked out Mario Batista, which is a good win because Batista's looking pretty good right now. He he has good power. He's got pretty good takedown defense, and he's got good counters as well. But I want to see him going forward more and really push the pressure in this fight. His head movement could be better, but he can definitely take a punch. We've seen him, get cracked by a lot of guys, and he hasn't been put out. His last loss was to Barcelos, who I think would destroy Cody Garbrandt even this late in his, in their careers. I really think this is going to be kind of like a coming out party for Trevin, honestly, because he's fighting a former champion that's, hasn't been able to get a win in a long time, hasn't been able to put on any winning streak or anything. So I'm kind of thinking they might go this way. I expect to get a lot of hate on this pick. A lot of people are, picking Cody in the spot, but yeah, I'm just worried about Cody's chin. I can't pick him, with the way he's been looking here lately. It's basically I know they both have been losing, but it's the finishes on Cody's part that are making me go against him. So Trevin's gonna be fighting for his job here. Just because he lost to a veteran like Barcelos doesn't mean he can't learn and improve. Like I said, he KO'd Mario Batista, so there's something good to say for that. The power's there, and he had his moments against Bassarat as well. So he's looked good in certain spots. He just hasn't been able to put it together yet. I'm taking Trevin Jones by knockout round 1. And next up, we got Ian Machado Gary taking on Kenan Song. Gary is 25 years old, 6'3", with a 74-inch reach. He's 10-0, and he's 3-0 in the UFC. And, Gary's the prospect that everyone's excited about right now. I had my doubts about him at first. But he's proved that he's very good, and has a good ring IQ. He's really tall for the weight class. He's 6'3". He's going to have a good bit of reach here. The reason I had my doubts was because in his first fight, his debut fight against Jordan Williams, he was getting caught quite a bit. He was getting caught with some good punches. He was getting busted up. But, he did come back and get the win there. And, but since then, he seems to have worked on that. He hasn't been getting hit a lot. He's got good straight punches, and powerful hands, good kicks, nice knees in the clinch, up against the cage. He uses his height and his reach really well. He counters real well. He lands well also as he's kind of backing up, and off to the side. So, he can kind of catch guys when they don't expect it, which is pretty interesting because he's got such a long reach, I like his straight right hand. It doesn't even look like he puts that much on it, and he hurts guys with that punch quite a bit. So he's pretty impressive all the way around. He's one of these guys that's like a minus 400 right now. So I could see why, but I would think, somebody that's only, 3-0 in the UFC, you'd be able to get at least like a minus 275 or something. But he's going to be taking on Kenan Song. He is 32 years old, 6 foot tall, with a 71.5-inch reach. He's 19-6, and he's 4-2 in the UFC. One of the things I noticed is that most of his wins are over people who aren't in the UFC anymore. He's been out almost 2 years after getting knocked out by Max Griffin. He trains at Tiger Muay Thai, so he's been working on that striking. He's been there at that camp his last few fights. He's a strong guy for sure. I saw him throw a guy off of him from the mount position. He uses good shoulder strikes in the clinch. He's got KO power. He kind of thrives in like crazy brawls and exchanges. I got to go with Ian Gary here. I'm going to go with Ian Gary by KO in round 2. Song may have a little success early, but Gary's power and straight shots are going to end up slowing him down and putting him away eventually. He's not going to be able to eat too many of those. Next up, we got Mana Martinez taking on Cameron Simon. And Martinez is 26 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach. He's 10-3, and he's 2-1 in the UFC. He's got good striking for sure. Pretty decent power. he'll struggle with the wrestling against like really good, wrestlers like Ronnie Lawrence or, guys that are just constantly, pushing for the takedown. But, I don't think his opponent here is quite as good of a wrestler as Ronnie Lawrence. Also, he did catch Ronnie Lawrence late in the fight, so, he showed that his power does carry over into later rounds. He's going to have the height and the reach advantage here. He was able to get back up a few times, when he was getting taken down. It takes a lot of pressure to get him down and keep him down, really is what I'm saying. He's got good low kicks and kicks up the middle, nice combinations. He doesn't throw everything into all his shots. He switches stances well. He does that to kind of like set up his right hand. If you notice, go back and watch, several of his fights, you'll see him doing that. He really throws a wide variety of strikes. I really like his striking. He moves a lot and very well. Tries to get out of the way of the punches and moves side to side. He definitely avoids strikes well for someone, who's in and out of the pocket so much. And he's going to be taking on Cameron Simon, who is 22 years old, 5'8", with a 67-inch reach. He's 7-0, and he's 1-0 in the UFC. He's really young. He looked good on Contender Series in his debut. He threw a lot of good kicks. He struggled with the takedowns quite a bit, honestly, and he was making quite a few mistakes as far as the grappling. He was a big favorite coming into his UFC debut, but he didn't look like he was very deserving of that big line. He was basically kind of losing that fight until he threw an illegal shot, a knee straight to his opponent's face, and of a downed opponent. And then he was able to push the pace and finish the fight. But honestly, his opponent shouldn't even continue to fight after that. So I don't put a whole lot of stock into that win, and that's just me being honest. I think Martinez is going to have the advantage on the feet and possibly even with the grappling from what I've seen, at least as far as, I think Simon's probably not going to be able to take him down. And I'm going to be picking Martinez to win by decision here. So I know everybody's going with Simon, and I'm going with two underdogs almost immediately on this card in the first three fights. Next up, we got Derek Brunson. Hold on, did we lose the Camila Kirk fight? I guess we did. Huh. Yeah, we lost the... Hopefully they find a replacement for that, because I really wanted to see Esteban, I'm not really sure how to say his last name, that Camila Kirk was supposed to fight. So, next up we got Derek Brunson taking on Dricus du Plessis. Brunson is 39 years old. He's 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. He's 23-8, and he's 14-6 in the UFC. He's been in the UFC since 2012, so he's a veteran. And he's had kind of like a resurgence in his career after a few KO losses he had a few years ago. He really started relying on his wrestling, and he went on a 5-fight win streak until he fought Jared Cannonier. And, he couldn't take down Jared, and, he was finished in that fight. He does have powerful shots, but my guess is either that he knows he can't take a shot very well at this, point late in his career, or he's just trying to be overly careful. He really tries to avoid the striking altogether if he can. Sorry, guys, my voice is going out on me. He tries to avoid the striking if he can. Wow. So that's going to be his only shot really at winning this fight. Is that if he can get the takedowns. But honestly, you got to respect him to be where he's at in the UFC. Over 20 fights into his, with the company, it's not easy to stay relevant that long. So he has a good chance here. He's going to be taking on Dricus du Plessis. He's 29, 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. He is 18-2, and he's 4-0 in the UFC. Now I really like this guy. I'm a big fan of his. Did he look as good as I hoped he would in his last fight? No, he did not. He did get the job done, though. He kind of gassed himself out. He went for a finish real early, right off the bat. Was kind of putting a lot of pressure on him. And then he started pushing the grappling, and, it kind of seemed like he burned himself out there and lost the second round, and then was still able to come back and get it done in the third. But it wasn't a very good look. But, he did persevere and get the victory. So, like I said, he did show off some grappling in that fight, which is something we don't see very much from him. But Darren Till can't really grapple, so there's not like, you know, not a really good comparison to say that he's like a good grappler, just because he out grappled Darren Till, I guess is what I'm saying. But anyways, he's exciting as hell, big power. He's real explosive. He beat Brad Tavares, and Tavares is really good. His fights are a treat to go back and watch. Almost all of his wins are by finish. He's got a real decorated kickboxing pedigree. Um, I've seen him make mistakes and work his way through it, and still get the win. He has really good, powerful combinations, mixes in the kicks well. He's a fucking monster, man. This guy's, he's tough, and he'll rush in with elbows and all kinds of crazy stuff. So if he touches Brunson, Brunson's done. I'm picking Duplessis to win by KO. I don't know if it'll be maybe round 3, round 2, KO. Next up, we got Julian Marquez versus Marc-Andre Barriault. This is another one that I don't think a lot of people will probably agree with me on. If you look at the Tapology, it's 75% is going to Marquez here. I won't be going with him. So Julian Marquez is 32 years old, 6'2", with a 72-inch reach. He's 9-3 and 3-2 in the UFC. And back before he was out for a couple years due to injuries, people were kind of thinking that he was a really good, I don't want to say like the next big deal or whatever, but people were really really hyped up on him, and he ended up losing a split decision to Alessio Di Chirico, and then he was out for over 2 years. And he came back. He got a win over Maki Pitolo, but he was losing that fight. Before he ended up coming back and getting, I believe it was submission. Pretty sure it was submission. And he wasn't really looking that good in that fight. And then then after that he fought Sam Alvey, who hadn't won a fight in years at that point, and then he gets knocked out like nothing by Gregory Rodriguez. And so I don't put a lot of stock in the wins that he's gotten since he's come back. He has big power, he's got good submissions, but doesn't really have the best like wrestling, and takedowns and stuff. If you go back and look at a lot of his fights, he gives up a lot of takedowns. He got taken down like 5 times by Maki Pitolo, and Pitolo's a striker. He's not even a grappler or anything. So if he can get the takedowns, I'm pretty sure Mark can get the takedowns in this spot. And I have a feeling that Andre Barriault's probably going to push a pace that Marquez won't be able to keep up with. Marc-Andre Barriault is 33 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach. He's going to have 2 inches of reach in this spot. He's 14-6 and 3-5 in the UFC. He doesn't look like he has the best record in the UFC, but I think he's fought way tougher competition between the two of these guys. And I like the pace and the pressure that he puts on people. He really runs guys down and just wears on them with constant pressure. And the last fight he kind of had his own game plan used against him by Anthony Hernandez, but there's not a whole lot of people that can keep up with Anthony Hernandez and his pace. He's even worse than Andre Barriault is as far as putting the pressure on people. And he's good with his grappling, has great takedowns, good cardio. That's one of his best weapons is cardio. He can really take a punch, and he fights real well in the clinch. He throws a lot of uppercuts. He's got pretty good takedown defense. He's got a really good guillotine choke. I think he wears on Marquez and ends up getting a late finish, 3rd round finish. I don't know if I want to go with submission or KO. Maybe KO due to ground and pound is what I'm going to go with. And funny thing is, I was doing these videos this morning, and I was in the middle of doing my video, and Tapology decided to do maintenance on their site, so I had to stop and come back to it. Oh yeah, and I also wanted to apologize for my red panty night video. I've been drinking a little bit, and all my bets hit, so just be warned that you're probably going to have to hear my crappy Conor McGregor impression every time all my bets hit. So next up, we got Vivian Araujo taking on Amanda Ribas. And Viviana Araujo is 36 years old. I didn't realize she was 36. 5'4" with a 68-inch reach. She's 11-4 and 5-3 in the UFC. She's pretty well rounded. Just hasn't really been able to get over the hump in the UFC. You know, that's the top five, or the other hump that's Caitlin Chukagian that nobody can really seem to get over, or very few. She's got pretty good subs. She's got okay striking. You know, I'm not spending a whole lot of time on this one, guys, because um, she's taking on Amanda Ribas. I think Amanda Ribas is going to be better everywhere the fight goes. She's she's 29 years old, 5'3" with a 66-inch reach. So she is going to be giving up 2 inches of reach in the spot. She's 10-3 and 5-2 in the UFC. I just think she's the better fighter all the way around. She's fought the better competition, and I'm picking her to win by like a late submission, probably third round submission. So next up, we got Farid Basharat taking on Damon Blackshear, and this is what we've been waiting on. Javid's brother. Uh, you know, Javid's been making quite a splash in the UFC, and everybody's really blown away and really high up on him. And I'm really looking forward to seeing his brother finally come in. We've been waiting on this guy for a while. We've heard all the talks about him, but I guess the last time he was on Contender Series was only 5 months ago. I guess it just seems like a lot longer than that. Um, so he is 25 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach. He's 9-0. This is going to be his UFC debut. Uh, and both these guys are undefeated. So, like I said, looking forward to it. He has powerful leg kicks. He's very explosive. He changes levels with his punches. Goes from the head to the body. Very frequently. And he's when you're sorry, I'm looking at something over here on my notes. um, so when guys are coming at him, he steps off to the side real well, if that makes sense. He'll step off to the side when guys are coming at him, and he counters well from that position once he's off to the side. He's very quick with it too. His punches are super fast. He's got really good takedowns, really good control and top pressure, good ground and pound. Throws a lot of knees to the body from the top position, which is pretty good. Not a whole lot of people do that, especially as frequently as he was doing in the fights I watched. Super fast jab. Honestly, to me, he looks even better than his brother, and that's kind of saying a lot. But we're going to see how it holds up. With the stiffer competition in the UFC. But from what I've seen, this guy looks like he's even better than his brother. So, uh, and he's taking on Damon Blackshear, who is 28 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. He's 12-4-1, and his only fight in the UFC was his UFC debut, and it was a draw. His debut was against Yusuf Zalal, who isn't a bad fighter at all, even though I think the UFC cut him. Zalal's a pretty tough guy. He's pretty skilled, and he was big for the weight class because that was when he was coming down from featherweight to bantamweight and fighting Damon. So he does try, and I saw him get taken down quite a few times, but he's pretty comfortable off his back. He's got a very offensive guard. He tries and throws up a lot of subs. Off his back. He doesn't just lay there and accept the position. He can scramble to the back real well and fast, and the scrambles on the ground when he's trying to get up, or he'll snatch a leg and roll over and just bounce right over real quick and just onto somebody's back, before they can even get up. And he basically kept switching from sub to sub in that fight, until he was able to either slide out and or stand up or take the back, whatever. It was very impressive, how he was going from submission to submission like that, just back and forth from one to the other. Um, so he's got good takedowns himself. He did kind of give up, some good positions to jump on submissions that he really didn't, have a chance of getting, or, he was just kind of being pretty wild about that. And a lot of guys that are new to the UFC do that. you give up that good position trying to get that, an ankle lock or something, and it's usually just a waste of time at this level in the game. Um, he doesn't want to do that stuff against Basharat here, and this guy's not a walk in the park for anybody for sure. But I'm definitely taking Basharat to win here. I'm going to say by decision because Damon's a really tough guy. He's really good. I just think that these Basharat brothers are kind of on another level than this guy. They're gonna have to go pretty far up in the rankings to find somebody who's really gonna give them a tough fight. So Basharat by decision. Next up, we got Jessica Penne taking on Tabitha Ritchie. Jessica Penne is 40 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach, and she's 14-6 and 3-4 in the UFC. She's now 40 years old. Her striking isn't very good. We saw that in the Emily Ducote fight. She was getting lit up by someone who was, I think that was Ducote's UFC debut. So, the only impressive thing that she's really done since she's been back, is I believe it was Lupe Godinez that she got the back and just basically rode out, I think, 2 rounds of that fight on her back. Couldn't get the submission or anything, was just backpacking her for, the entire fight. And that's probably the only way I see her really getting the victory here. She does have a good size advantage here, but it's just, if she can use it, if her striking's really up to par to use it, she's going to have a big reach. She's going to have 5 inches of reach in this spot. So I guess it wouldn't totally shock me, but she's taking on Tabitha Ritchie. She's 28 years old, 5'1" with a 62-inch reach. She's 7-1 and 2-1 in the UFC. And her only loss was to Manon Fiorot, and she's amazing. She's probably going to be fighting for a title soon. So, uh, so you can't really hate on her too much for that loss. She'll have the striking advantage in this fight, I believe. She'll just need to get on the inside and beat up Jessica Penne. And I could see a situation, where the long lens of Penne could help her, and maybe she takes the back like she did with Lupe Godinez, but I think Ritchie wins by decision for sure. I wouldn't bet on this fight though. Just saying, women's fights can get pretty dicey sometimes. So unless it's like somebody super super capable, like Amanda Nunes or Valentina Shepchenko, probably don't be dropping money on these women unless they're finishers. Um, so next up we got Mateusz Gamrot taking on Jalen Turner. This is a really good matchup. And this fight is pretty hard for me to, I had to really go back and watch a lot of tape, to really make my decision for sure on this. So Gamrot is 32 years old, 5'10" with a 70.5-inch reach. He's 21-2 and he's 4-2 in the UFC. He's only lost to really tough guys: Beneil Dariush, Guram Kordolidze. He's really good. I was surprised at how bad, Dariush made him look. I thought that was going to be a way more competitive fight. And so that did surprise me, but that just goes to show you how good Dariush really is. I mean, he's probably the only person that's got a chance of beating Makhachev other than Volkanovski. But, he's got really good grappling and wrestling. I like his striking as well. He likes to do like the low single leg takedowns, kind of like an ankle pick type stuff a lot. He's really good with all his takedowns, though. It's just something I noticed he does quite a bit. He's super talented. He was able to, go to a competitive decision against, Sarukian, which is impressive, even though I thought Sarukian won. But, that's probably just because I had money on him. But, he can fight from either stance. He's got great 5-round cardio. He has good scrambles. I mean, this is like I said, this is a little tricky fight for me to pick, man. Because I do think Gamrot is going to have the grappling advantage here. It's just Jalen Turner is so big, so that's the only thing that kind of worried me about it. Originally I really wanted to pick Jalen Turner. Turner is 27 years old, 6'3" with a 75.5-inch reach. He's 13-5 and 6-2 in the UFC. He's on a 5-fight win streak. Let's take a look at that real quick though. Just to kind of, let me get some water real quick. So if you look at his wins on this 5-fight win streak, he's fought some tough guys. But let's take a look at it. Brad Riddell, really talented striker, doesn't really have any grappling. Jamie Millarkey, really tough guy, mainly a striker. Gross Medic, he's pretty much a striker. Brock Weaver is not good at anything. Joshua Coulibaly was a 145er that happened to get his debut by taking on Jalen Turner on short notice. So and Joshua Coulibaly is really talented, but he's half the size of Jalen Turner. So that brings me back to are any of these guys good at have been good at wrestling or grappling? So no, not really. So that takes me back to the Matt Frevola fight. And Matt Revola is nowhere near as good of a grappler, as Gamrot is. So I know he's improved a lot since this fight, but if Frevola can get the takedowns on you and kind of control you a lot, I'm pretty sure Gamrot can do that as well. I want to pick Jalen real bad. He's looked really good, and there's always that chance that Jalen sticks him with a big jab and drops him, and and catches him with a sub before he get himself back together like he did Riddell. But I got to go with Gamrot here. He's definitely the more skilled grappler and wrestler in my opinion. As long as he can get around Jalen Turner's size, I think he can get the win here. And I'm going to be taking Gamrot to win by decision. As bad as I want to pick Jalen Turner. So next up, we got. I've been waiting on this fight for a while now. This one's supposed to happen, over a month ago. Jeff Neal taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov. So Jeff Neal is 32 years old, 5'11", with a 75-inch reach. He's 15-4 and 7-2 in the UFC. And I like Jeff Neal. When he's on, his striking is very clean. His boxing's really good. He had gone through a bit of a rough patch, and I think he had some personal stuff going on. Like he dropped a fight to Stephen Thompson, but anybody who's going to have a striking battle with Stephen Thompson, is probably going to lose. And then the Neil Magny fight, that was a pretty close fight. It could have gone either way. It wasn't such a good look, but he did struggle with the grappling a little bit in that. The control time up against the cage and stuff. But after that, he had a good performance in a close fight with Ponzinibbio, and he destroyed Vicente Luque as an underdog. He looked really good there. Fast, heavy combinations. He wasn't getting hit a lot. He was using his kicks well. It was really the best we'd ever seen him so far. And I loved how he was hitting those double jabs in the fight. You don't see a whole lot of people doubling up the jabs. He did struggle a little bit with the grappling, but Neal really couldn't get him down much, or keep him down. But I think that's the reason they gave the fight to Magny. It was just kind of the control time against the cage or something. In my opinion, Neal probably could have won that fight. It was pretty close. But he's going to be giving up 2 inches of reach here, and he's going to be taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov. 28 years old, 6'1", 77-inch reach, and he's 16-0 and 4-0 in the UFC. Every single one of his wins is by finish. This guy is really impressive. Everybody's hyped on, Khamzat Chimaev. This is the guy I'm hyped about. I think this guy could probably beat Khamzat Chimaev if he could make the 170 weight again. He might be going up to middleweight, but every time we see him, he looks better and better. He's getting tougher opponents every time, and he's making it look easy. He's good at everything: wrestling, striking, submissions. And he started with combat sambo. Just like so many of the amazing fighters that come over from that part of the world. They've all started in combat sambo. And he's pretty tall. He's got a good reach for this division. He's going to have 2 inches of reach here. He throws heavy leg kicks. He's very tough to take down. He has a great guillotine choke, great takedowns, good ground and pound. He throws good spin kicks and step-in knees, good head movement. He doesn't get hit a lot either. Most of the fights, you can go back and watch all of his UFC fights, he barely got hit at all. He's really good at moving his head back just out of reach and then coming back with good counters. He just, Magny was supposed to be his toughest opponent yet, and he made Magny look like he didn't belong, He was never in trouble in that fight. He barely broke a sweat, just easily out-grappled him. everyone, like I said, everyone needs to be looking out for this guy because he is the next big thing, and I think he's going to be a champ one day. And I'm going to pick him. I'm going to pick him to win by guillotine or Darce choke in this spot. So next up, we got Jamie Pickett taking on Bo Nickel. And Jamie Pickett is 34 years old, 6'2", with an 80-inch reach. He's 13-8 and 2-4 in the UFC. And there's not a whole lot I can say of in favor of Jamie Pickett in this spot. Other than he's just the way more experienced fighter. But if you consider Bo Nickel's wrestling career and everything, competing in wrestling, he's had a long career in these sports too. So he lost to Dennis Tululan, who we found out in Tululan's last fight that he has zero ground game and doesn't even know really how to get out of mount. He was just trying to stick his arms up behind him and just lift himself up out of mount with Park on top of him. So that was, I thought he was better than that. But he's a big, powerful guy. Just hasn't been able to put it all together. And there's a chance he could have a striking advantage here, but I seriously doubt he'll be able to use it. And the only reason I say that is because we just haven't been able to see much of Bo Nickel striking, so far in the limited bit of stuff we got on him. But Bo Nickel is 3-0, and it's going to be his UFC debut. This guy's probably the best wrestler we've ever seen come into the UFC in a long time. His jiu-jitsu is really good. Like I said, the only reason Jamie might have a striking advantage, I just haven't been able to see much of Bo striking, so. He's definitely going to have Bo Nichols definitely have the power advantage. Wrestling for sure. Really excited to see how far this guy's going to go. It's crazy the lines on this guy. He's like a minus 1,700 favorite. And the lines, like I said, I jump on these lines early, so that's just what he started out at. It's crazy that these lines are like that on him, and he's only 3-0. But he's definitely deserving of it. He's really good, really impressive, and I'm picking him to win by KO in round 1. So just wish there was a way I could make any money on it, but there's not. And next up, we got Valentina Shepchenko taking on Alexa Grasso. Valentina Shepchenko is 34 years old, 5'5", with a 65.5-inch reach. She's 23-3 and 12-2 in the UFC. She's the woman's GOAT. I love Amanda Nunes, but Valentina, to me, is the GOAT. She made it look easy pretty much the whole time. The only time we've ever saw her have any trouble was her last fight. And I honestly kind of contribute that to her just kind of fucking around and trying unnecessary stuff, because she's so used to having the advantage everywhere over people. Her opponents, she's usually way ahead of her opponents in every aspect of the game. She was kind of toying around with these throw takedowns, which, she messed up on and wound up on the bottom or, with her back taken. She was staying in the clinch too long. I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about. If y'all went back and watched that fight, she's just kind of purposely staying on the bottom rather than to try and stand up. And she was just kind of throwing up submissions that she wasn't getting, which, I get it. It's cool to be trying to win the fight that way. But when you're down, a round or two, it's probably not what you want to be doing. You want to try to get back up because it doesn't look good for the judges, That's all I'm saying, but after that, she stopped messing around. She stuck to the striking in the end of the fight, and over the later rounds, kind of picked up the pace and, started putting a beating on Santos. But I wouldn't have been shocked at all if Santos had won that fight, with different judges or on a different night. But I thought she won. I thought she took over late enough in the fight, but I was kind of confused because I don't understand why, Grasso is getting, the rematch or not is getting this fight instead of the rematch with Santos. I thought Santos deserved, the rematch, but Shevchenko's a world-class kickboxer, some of the best striking you're going to see. She's really good pretty much everywhere the fight goes. So there's not a lot more you got to say about her, She's going to be taking on Alexa Grasso. She is 29 years old, 5'5", with a 66-inch reach. She's going to have a half-inch of reach, which I don't see being much of an advantage at all. She's 15-3, 7-3 in the UFC. And I think Grassos is a really good fighter. She's got nice boxing. She's got real fast, jabs and keeps her hands up to her chin real well. So, good defense. But that's got to be honest. I don't see her being better than anywhere than Valentina in this spot. Um, like the only girl who's got a shot, is Santos, in my opinion, to to beat Valentina, other than maybe Amanda Nunes up a weight class. And I've got Valentina to win by decision. Next up, we got the main event. This is the fight everybody's been waiting on. Been sitting around twiddling our thumbs for probably over 3 years. Yeah, 3 years waiting on Jon Jones to come back. Always hearing about him. He's coming back. He's coming back, and he never comes back. Well, he's finally coming back. At least we think, unless something happens. So, he's in a lot of people's minds. He's the best fighter of all time. He's definitely up there. For me. Um, he's 26-1 with his one loss being a disqualification for illegal elbows. He's 35 years old, 6'4", 84.5-inch reach. He's got reach on most heavyweights. And he was always a light heavyweight. He's got really good everything. Hasn't really used his wrestling or grappling as much. In his later fights. And a lot of people might say that the competition was starting to catch up to him at light heavyweight, and a lot of people say that, but it's just some of his fights were kind of getting, yeah, they were unanimous decisions, and then Thiago Santos' fight was a split decision, so that was a close one, apparently. But yeah, it always makes me wonder why he would just drop his title and just go up to heavyweight. I don't know if it was because he was worried about the competition coming up, or maybe if the weight cut was getting too much for him. Thought he would feel better at heavyweight, whatever. I really don't know. But like I said, he's got good everything, good submissions. He's got great Muay Thai. He likes good teep kicks, to keep people back. Great leg kicks, calf kicks. Big power. Tends to kind of stay out of harm's way rather than go in for crazy knockouts or anything anymore. But that was 3 years ago at light heavyweight, so we don't know what he's going to be like, at heavyweight. And the only worries that I really have in this is it's been 3 years. He's coming back heavier than he's ever been. You would think he's one of the greatest of all time. He would be training appropriately, and that his cardio would be able to hold up in a 5-round heavyweight fight. But you never know until you're in there. And just crazy. Is his power going to carry up to heavyweight? Is he going to be able to take down bigger guys? I mean, I think he'll be able to take the heavyweights down. But there's a lot of what ifs, and he's taking on Cyril Gane. He's 11-1. His only losses to Francis Ngannou, and he's 32 years old and 6'4" and an 81-inch reach. So he's going to be given about 3 inches of reach here. And Cyril Gane's a really good kickboxer. He moves really well. He's super fast for a heavyweight. He moves like a damn middleweight, or welterweight. He's so fast. He has struggled with the grappling in the past. Francis Ngannou was able to get him down, and Jon Jones is definitely going to be able to take him down. I mean, I think Jon Jones is going to clearly have the grappling and wrestling advantage. It's just, can he keep it up for 5 rounds, or can he submit Gane early on in the fight? So I'm kind of like torn on this, because originally when all this came up, I really was planning on going with Cyril Gane. But my brain tells me that Jon Jones has got the wrestling and the grappling skills, and that he should be able to use them and get this fight. So as far as a pick goes, I'm going with Jon Jones, but because you can get Cyril Gane as an underdog, I am going to put a small bit, even just $100 on Cyril Gane, just because if he wins, it's going to be a big deal. He beat a guy who's never been beaten, and I have a feeling that he could win. He could pull it out. He's so fast, there's no reason he couldn't beat Jon Jones. So that's going to be the pick there. I know I get a lot of hate on that for picking Jon Jones and then putting a small bet on Cyril Gane just in case he wins. Just so I could say I did that, if he does get the win. But as far as my bets go for this card, it was hard to get any good value on anything. I hate doing parlays, even 2-man parlays, which I do those quite a bit, and it's always my advice to everybody else would be don't ever parlay anybody because even though you win less betting everybody single, at least one guy can't cancel out your whole parlay. But I still do it. I still make parlays every freaking week and just put big parlays with like $20 on them or whatever. 2 fight, 3 fight parlays. I don't ever post anything over two fight parlay. I usually don't post them for anybody. But on this, I had to do a couple of 2-man parlays to get any good value on some of these fights. And I got, Dricus du Plessis is at -200 when that line first came out. It's been out a while now. That's going to be 1 unit on that. And I've got a 2-man parlay with Rachmanov and Valentina Shepchenko. And I caught that when they were both quite a bit less than what they are now. So that parlay is at -190. There's 2 units on that. I got a plus money shot on Trevin Jones, which I'm probably going to get a lot of hate on for that because everybody's going with Garbrandt, but plus 140, 1 unit on that. Then I got a 2-man parlay with Ian Gary and Bassarat, which is -155. So 2 units on that. Small play on Gane. And as far as I know, that's all I'm going to have on this card. That's already quite a bit, honestly. Probably too much. I've had several really good weeks in a row, so hopefully this one won't throw it all off. And I still don't know how UFC Vegas 70 is going to turn out because that hasn't even happened yet. But I do appreciate all you guys, and I love hearing from everybody in the comments and stuff. And it means a lot to me. Everybody tells me, that they really enjoy the show, and people are using my bets and have been making money. So I'm always happy to hear that. You ever want to make any donations to the cause, just message me on Instagram or something, and I'm always open for even a few bucks if y'all want to hook me up. So my Instagram is highkick_fight and my email also, if anybody wants to get in touch with me about sponsors or something like that, is listed on my YouTube page. You can get that off there, and yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Y'all have a good one, man.